I wish you could smell these herbs and these spices because they smell so good. I love the smell of rosemary, basil, oregano, garlic. And let's get this salt and pepper in. Once again, it's 1 teaspoon each. The recipe says half a teaspoon, but I'm going to go ahead and just put 1 teaspoon each. And please take note, the reason why I'm adding more than what's on the original recipe is because I'm doing 2 pounds of ground beef, and you can also do this with ground turkey as well. This is the original recipe on Pinterest. Like I said, I will leave the link. For instance, it requires half a small onions. I didn't want to do that because I know my kids are weird about onions, so I want to hide that onion in the recipe so they don't taste it, they don't like the texture of it. So you can hide it. There's a way you could cook and hide ingredients just by using another form of it. So I use onion powder. Then another thing here, I noticed it needs 2 tablespoons of plain Greek yogurt, light or whole. I don't have plain Greek yogurt, so I'm going to skip that, or I may go online and see what I could use for a substitution. And I only have sour cream, so I'm not sure if that's a substitution, but we'll see, we'll check. But if I don't have a substitution, like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and just skip it. These meatballs will still come out pretty good and yummy. Now for my gravy, I do use a fresh whole onion for my gravy, you guys. And I'll show you guys what I put in my gravy right now. So my gravy, I will chop up an onion very, very small. I will saute that onion on a pan with some oil. Saute it, cook it up until it's translucent. Then I'm going to add heavy cream. I'm going to add chicken bouillon flavoring and some water. And of course, I'm going to use flour because you got to have flour to make your gravy. There's so many different types of ways to make gravy. Of course, I will add some salt. And actually, no, I'm not going to add salt. I take that back. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper because the chicken bouillon, I got to keep that in mind when you're working with this. This already has salt in it. So you don't want to make your gravy too salty. So this is all it is from my gravy, you guys. And this is a white gravy. Of course, you can make a brown gravy, but this is what my family prefers. My husband loves my gravy. This gravy tastes so good. Now, the original recipe here is for 1 pound of ground turkey, 90% lean. Like I said, you can use any meat you want. So if you follow this exactly, follow it the way exactly here it is if you're doing 1 pound of ground turkey. Link to the recipe will be in the description box, like I said. So this is ready to be mixed in a few minutes. I showed you guys how I'm doing my white gravy. Okay, so this is what exactly I put into this bowl. So let's go over it. 4 tablespoons of basil, 3 teaspoons of garlic powder. These are all dried ingredients I use. 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs, 1 cup of Parmesan cheese, 6 tablespoons of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of rosemary, 2 tablespoons of dried oregano. I made a mistake. I didn't want to put that much oregano, but I went ahead and did that, so we'll see. 4 tablespoons of parsley, 4 teaspoons of the beef bouillon flavoring. So we're not doing actual beef with water, like a beef, stock or chicken stock. We're just adding the flavoring straight from here. No water necessary. Just want to point that out. And so 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of pepper. This is exactly, like I said, what I put into my own way of cooking this recipe with ground beef. To make these meatballs, you can pan fry it. You can cook them in an air fryer, or you can just put these on a cookie sheet to bake it. So I got my oven set here. I'm going to let it preheat till it gets to 400, and I'm going to be cooking for 21 minutes. I'm glad this oven has a timer. Our last oven did not have that, and it helps so much to get that alarm. So 21 minutes. I'm not going to hit start yet, but once I'm ready to cook it, I'll hit start for the timer. Okay, so I got my onions chopped up for the gravy. I'm going to use plain olive oil. So you want to get your pan heated, and you want to get these onions cooked up so they're translucent. After that, that's when I start adding my water. No, actually I add flour. So you want to coat the onions with flour, right? As much flour as you want. There's no right or wrong. The more flour, the more gravy. If you have too much flour, you add more cream or water to adjust how you want your gravy to be thicker, thinner. So once I get that going with the flour dry, put the flour dry on top of the onions first. Don't add the flour to hot water because it's gonna cook up. If you want smooth gravy, add the flour on top of the onions. Then you start adding your water and heavy cream. Stir really well as you're cooking it. You're gonna add this to taste. Don't make it too salty. And then all you need to do is add some pepper to taste too. It's all how you want it. The trick is add the flour to the onions once the onions are cooked. Actually, you can add the flour and the pepper. Okay, so the onions are gonna brown. If you want your gravy to be more flavored, really brown up those onions. I'm gonna brown mine just a little bit more. And let me show you guys what I use for the olive oil. I have garlic olive oil, but I don't want garlic flavoring in the gravy. So I just use plain olive oil. Okay, as you can see, these onions are nice and brown. They smell so good. And now I'm gonna add my flour. You add by tablespoon. Add what you think would be enough for your family. I'm gonna make a lot of gravy, so I'm probably gonna do like 3 tablespoons of this flour. That's gonna make a large amount of gravy. So I changed my mind. I actually did 6 tablespoons of flour because this is gonna be quite a bit of gravy for us. Next, add your spices. I'm only adding black pepper. You can do this now. You can adjust at the end. You're not adding salt because remember that chicken flavoring is already salted. I suggest you add this chicken bouillon flavor a little bit at a time, starting off with a teaspoon each. My oven is all preheated. So for the chicken bouillon, tablespoon at a time, and add more after you're tasting your gravy. Like once everything starts cooking, the cream is inside with the water, you get it mixing. Add more chicken bouillon flavor if needed, because nobody likes super salty gravy. It just does not taste right. Next, you want to mix this all together. I'm going to turn my fire back up. Number 4, get that onion coated with the gravy. I'm sorry, with the flour and the spices. Excuse my oven, it's going to keep going off in the background because it's waiting for me to start my timer. So coat, coat, coat. Another trick is just let it sit. When you brown the gravy up, it adds even more flavor. I heard that some chefs even take the flour, spread it out on a cookie sheet, and they actually bake the flour ahead of time, so it has like a more flavor to the gravy. I've never tried it, but you can just cook it here for a few minutes and just let that flour continue to cook for more flavor. Okay, I'm gonna start adding my wet ingredients. So you want to get some water. Add that water. Make sure you shake up your heavy cream. Add that heavy cream. Now you're going to give an initial stir, but you're going to keep stirring. Now as you cook this, now the flour will thicken. Then you can determine how much more heavy cream or how much water you'll be adding to it. And remember, every time you add water, you are removing away from the ingredients. So not too much water. You want your gravy to be just right. You don't want to take away from those spices by adding too much water. So just constantly taste the gravy. That's key. Okay, so my gravy is cooking. Taste and smells really yummy. Get you a tasting spoon and taste that gravy. Now my gravy does need a little extra chicken bouillon, not too much. That's why you want to add a little bit at a time, because trust me, I've messed up on this gravy so many times where it's too salty. So you want to get it right, because you don't want to do this all over again. My oven is literally screaming at me because it's time now to get these meatballs going. So I'm going to mix it together and get them prepared in a second. But I lined a cookie sheet here with foil. This is my Pioneer Woman. Oh, I love this cookie sheet. The color. The price is only $10.99. You can get it at Walmart. I love the detail. There's the Pioneer Woman. I lined it with foil. I buy my foil in bulk. I've been using this foil from Smart and Final. I've had it for a while now, over a year, more than a year. 500 feet aluminum foil. Buy this foil in bulk. Okay, so the gravy is going. I suggest put it on low once you get it going, because as you can tell here, I need to add a little bit more of heavy cream, or maybe water, but maybe I'll do a little bit of both, because now it's starting to thick up and I don't want it too thick. Okay, so I'm done making the gravy, you guys. I just have it on my back burner on super low as a smaller burner just to keep it a little warmed. I know my husband might be a little hungry when he comes back. He went to go do some laundry. And so yeah, I'm gonna put away my wet ingredients into the fridge. I'm gonna get started on these meatballs. Make sure you add those eggs because I almost forgot. I overlooked it, but this recipe does call for 1 egg. But since I'm doing 2 pounds, I'm doing 2 eggs. Okay, ladies, so I have my big giant meatball. Now, if you're feeling lazy, you can actually cook this as one big meatball, but I'm not doing that. So I'm gonna get the meatball shaped onto the cookie sheet. Oven is still screaming at me. Okay, the gravy I transferred to my Pyrex dish for serving. There's the gravy. It came out so yummy. Next, I formed and shaped my meatballs. The oven has been waiting for me to put it in. I've got to cook it on 400 for about 21 minutes. It looks so yummy, right? I forgot to spray, so you can take your spray and just spray over the meatballs because you want to coat it with oil on the outside as well. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm using avocado oil that I got from Costco. They sell a 2-pack of this 100% pure avocado spray. Okay, almost forgot that part. So I decided not to make my mashed potatoes like the way I usually make it with butter and some garlic salt because the meatballs are very flavorful and the gravy. So if you do too much of flavoring into those mashed potatoes, it might kind of counteract, just be too salty, just too much. So I thought just doing simple buttered mashed potatoes. So I added my butter. Then I'm going to add a can of this evaporated carnation milk. There's my smashed, actually whipped mashed potatoes with butter and evaporated milk. Made from scratch.